If you're a dog owner, you've probably worried about cataracts at some point. We tend to just chalk it up to old age, something that just happens. But what if I told you that cloudiness in their eye isn't really about the eye at all? What if it's a warning sign from a completely different part of their body? Let's dive into a whole new way of looking at this.
Right, so the classic thinking has always been that cloudy eyes are just a part of getting older, or maybe it's in their genes. It's just something we have to deal with. But is that really the whole story?
Well, this is where functional medicine comes in and just flips that whole idea on its head. Get this. A cataract isn't an isolated eye problem. Instead, it is a local expression of a systemic disease. In other words, the eye is just showing you on the outside that the entire body system is out of whack on the inside. So we're going to spend the next few minutes completely redefining what a cataract is. We'll dig into the science, and we're going to focus on two really fascinating ideas, something called the gut-eye axis and then the two-hit theory. Trust me, understanding this could totally change how you think about your dog's health. All right, let's start with the first big piece of the puzzle, the gut-eye axis. It sounds a little strange, I know, but there is a direct line of communication between two places in the body you would never, ever think are connected, the gut and the eyes. So what in the world is the gut-eye axis? Well, think of it like a biological superhighway. It's an immune signaling pathway where messages travel straight from the intestines all the way up to the eyes. And that means, pretty amazingly, that the health of your dog's gut has a direct, real impact on their vision. And the trouble almost always starts right here, with a condition you might have heard of called leaky gut. See, the intestinal wall is supposed to be this super strong, sealed barrier. But when it gets weak, it becomes permeable. It gets holes in it, and that allows things to pass into the bloodstream that have absolutely no business being there. And one of the most destructive things that escapes is something called an endotoxin, or LPS. It's basically a toxin from gut bacteria. When that intestinal wall is leaky, LPS just slips right into the bloodstream. And that's when the real chaos begins. Because LPS acts like a 5-alarm fire bell, triggering massive inflammation all through the body. This slide lays out the whole path of destruction perfectly. It all starts with step 1, leaky gut, lets those LPS toxins out. Then, step 2, those toxins travel through the blood and actually break down the eye's own protective wall, the blood aqueous barrier. In step 3, with the gates wide open, inflammation just floods the eye. And finally, step 4, that inflammatory storm causes the proteins in the lens to oxidize and harden. And that hardening, that is the cataract. Okay, but that still leaves a pretty big question, right? If this is happening, why do some dogs get cataracts so much younger than others? This brings us to the second key idea, the two-hit theory. I mean, we see this all the time in the real world. How can a young dog, just 5 years old, start developing cloudy eyes while you see a 15-year-old senior whose vision is still crystal clear? It doesn't seem to make sense, but the two-hit theory gives us a brilliant explanation. And this slide just illustrates it perfectly. So hit 1 is what we can call the loaded gun. These are things like genetics or just the normal aging process. They cause a little bit of damage, but not enough to actually form a cataract. But then hit 2 comes along. That's the trigger. It's that massive storm of inflammation from leaky gut. It completely overwhelms the eye's defenses, pulls the trigger on that loaded gun, and causes rapid, serious damage. So if the problem is system-wide, the solution has to be 2. Let's look at how functional medicine tackles this. It's not about just suppressing a symptom in the eye. It's about restoring the body's natural balance. And here's the crucial point. The goal isn't just to treat the eye. It's to restore the body's entire internal ecosystem. The idea is that by creating a balanced, healthy environment on the inside, we allow the lens of the eye to do what it's naturally designed to do, which is stay clear. And the approach breaks down into 3 pretty logical steps. First, barrier restoration. You have to heal that leaky gut to stop the flood of toxins right at the source. Makes sense, right? Second, immune modulation. That's a fancy way of saying you have to calm down the body's overactive immune system and turn down that inflammation. And third, you have to normalize the metabolism. This helps the cells in the eye work properly again, so they can actually clear out the junk, the damaged proteins that are making things cloudy. Okay, so let's tie this all together. After everything we've looked at, what's the real secret to clear eyes? Look, if you remember one thing today, make it this. A cataract is so much more than just an eye problem. You should really see it as a warning light on your car's dashboard. It is a blinking red signal that the entire body is dealing with chronic, system-wide inflammation.
The eye is just showing you what's really happening on the inside.
And I just love this quote from the source material. It wraps it all up perfectly. The ultimate goal is to create clean blood, blood that isn't full of those inflammatory toxins from a leaky gut. When that healthy blood flows to the eyes, that's when we create the right conditions to stop cataracts from getting worse and protect clear vision for the long haul. So, this leaves us with one last really important question to think about. If you want to protect your pet's vision, this whole perspective suggests that just looking at their eyes, well, that's probably not the right place to start. The real question is, where should you be looking instead?